Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to do a straight line bubble stitch pattern. It's a one-side pattern. It means the pattern shows only on one side. The bubbles are in a straight line. You can crochet this pattern back and forth or in a round, and I'll show you both ways. Okay? So let's start. To start crocheting this back and forth, we're gonna need an odd number of stitches. Okay, so that's important because in the round it'll be different. So for the sample, let's do 11 stitches. Okay. Okay, so we have 11 stitches, and the first row we're going to do a row of single crochet stitches. So we're going to chain one for the turning chain and start doing our single crochet stitches. Here we have a row of single crochet stitches. Now we're gonna turn and do the row of bubble stitches. Okay, I chain two and turn, and I don't count this turning chain as a first stitch. Some people do, I don't. Okay, so we're gonna do a bubble stitch in this first stitch over here, and I'll post a link of how to do the bubble stitch where I show some tricks about it too, but I'll show it to you again here too. So we're starting to do our double crochet stitch, but we don't finish it. So there's one, and we're gonna do 5 of these. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so we should have a total of 6 loops on the hook, and we do. So now we're gonna do a yarn over and pull through all the loops. Okay, so now after the bubble stitch we follow up with a single crochet stitch. Okay, so we did one bubble, and we're going to continue with the same way. We're going to do a bubble stitch and then a single crochet right after that. Okay, so there's 3. One, 2, 3, 4. So there's one more. It gets a little difficult, but that's okay. Just make sure you have all the loops required, and now follow up with a single crochet. Okay, so here we made 2 bubbles. This would be the right side of our work. Okay, so let me go and finish this row, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Here we got to the end of the row, and I have nice bubbles over there. So the last stitch right here would be a bubble stitch again. Remember, that's why we had we did odd number of stitches, so it starts and ends with a bubble stitch. Okay, so again, we're gonna do 5 unfinished double crochet stitches. The last one's a little tough. Okay, so we have 6 loops on the hook. Now we yarn over and pull through all of them. Okay, now we're gonna chain 1 and turn to do our next row. And this next row would be basically the same what we did in the first row. It'll be a row of single crochet stitches, and you have to be careful and make sure you go into the right space. The loop of the bobble stitch, it's kind of a longer loop, and the loop of the single crochet stitch, it's kind of small, and sometimes it's easy to miss it, so you have to be careful and you know, check the stitches carefully when you do that. So here you go, another single crochet stitch. This is a big loop over here, and then this is a small one. So to form this pattern, you repeat row 1 and 2. And this will give you your bobbles going in a straight line. This is the last stitch right over your bobble. It's right here. It's important you don't miss it. And if it's a small project, it would be nice you know, to double check yourself and count. We should have 11 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're good. We did all the stitches we were supposed to do. And it's a larger project. You can kind of look and count your bobbles and see if you're missing one, or maybe that's when you missed a stitch and you can go back and correct that. So the next row again, we're gonna chain 2 and do the bobble stitch in the first stitch over here. And this row will be the same as second row. Okay, 1, 2, now 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you should have total of 6 loops over here. Yarn over, pull through all of the loops, and follow up with a single crochet. Okay, now if you look, if you turn around, now you see that your bobble stitch is sitting on top of the stitch of the previous row. So let's finish this row and see how it's going to look like. Do another bobble. Okay, so here we finished another row with the bobble stitches here. and you see your pattern forming. So from this point on, continue doing your repeating your row 1, which is a row of single crochet stitches, and then turn, chain 2, and do your second row with a bubble stitch and a single crochet after that. Okay, so after doing several rows, this is how your fabric is going to look like. The texture is great, it's beautiful. You can alternate colors every row, or a couple of rows of one color, a couple of rows of another. Just have fun with it. This is how to do a crochet bubble stitch in a straight line. Happy crocheting! To do this stitching around, you need to have an even number of stitches for the symmetry. For example, if you're casting on, so do an even number of stitches. If you're continuing a project like a hat that you already been crocheting for some time, make sure you have an even number of stitches before you start this. Or quickly, adjust your stitches, decrease one or add one when you do your first row, which is a single crochet row. Okay, so after the first row, you chain 2, and I always slip stitch to my first stitch, so that's the stitch I'm starting with. I'm gonna do my first bubble stitch exactly into that stitch. Okay, 6 loops. Okay, now we're gonna follow up with a single crochet. Because we're crocheting in the round, this side is always gonna be our right side, so you need to pop your bubble stitch to the front. Okay, so that's the difference from crocheting this stitch back and forth. So we did a single crochet right after that stitch, so we're doing another bubble stitch. Oh, hold on. So here I'm almost finished the bubble stitch row, popping bubbles to the front as I go, and the last stitch is going to be a single crochet stitch. Okay, and now we're going to join, and I prefer to join to the first stitch always, so here it is, the first stitch. So we're going to join with a slip stitch, make it tight. In the next row per pattern is going to be a row of single crochet, so chain 1, start with the same stitch, start doing your single crochet stitches and continue throughout the rest of the row. So this is pretty much the difference between doing this back and forth and in the round. First, you need an even number of stitches, and second, you need to pop your bubble stitches to the front as you go, as you crochet. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Stay tuned for more tutorials, and happy crocheting, everyone!